Dear Rabbi, thank you for taking the time to sit and chat with me before the service. I enjoyed meeting you. The message in your talk about the Sabbath and time was important for me to hear. Since February, I've been working on a diversity project called Wide Awakes 2025 as a solution to what's happening in America today. In the last several months, I've networked with local faith leaders to kickstart Wide Awakes 2025 by an interfaith celebration. I will try to provide enough information in this message to encourage your closer examination of my online materials that explain Wide Awakes 2025 in detail. I realize I'm asking you to invest time, thought, and energy. Very valuable resources indeed. My goal is to get you to reply to me now with your honest input and garner your ongoing support in the future. First, a bit of background. My partner John and I moved from Tarpon Springs, Florida to Maryland in December 2023. We started searching for a faith community by visiting churches in the area once we'd accomplished some major home repairs. John was raised Catholic. My religious journey is rather eclectic. Jewish for 8 years as a child, Jehovah's Witness for 28 years, and Unitarian Universalist for 30 years. I currently describe myself as a spiritual humanist and a universalist. That's because I have an openness to Scripture and the tenets of all sane and loving religion as beautiful, blessed, and harmonious metaphor. On the other hand, every belief system can be perverted to promote the lust for power, greed, oppression, and violence. That sounds horribly familiar, doesn't it? It has taken me far longer than I intended to get back to you, dear Rabbi, with more information because of a flare-up of my chronic back problems. Dealing with pain, medication, worry, and physical therapy sort of stole my confidence and drive, giving me a bit of writer's block for a time. With effort, I've managed to regain clarity and my zeal. But the clock keeps ticking, and the situation in America continues to go from bad to worse. I have rekindled my sense of urgency, but I've come to realize that like a beautiful flower, this too will unfold and bloom in its own time. Yes, I'm talking about Wide Awakes 2025 gaining acceptance with you and your congregation. I know in my heart that this idea to unite the left and the middle, because the far right seems so far gone, has great merit. For example, when I attended a 3-part online training by the group Indivisible for resistance and non-cooperation, that training highlighted these bullet points. What defiance can look like. The race against time before fascism takes over. How mass defiance, resistance, and non-cooperation can have social, political, and economic applications. Marches, rallies, demonstrations. Wearing of symbols. Educating neighbors, family, and friends. Vision work. Wide Awakes 2025 addresses all of these points. It offers solutions because it is based on sound historical precedent and wise nonviolent metaphors and symbols. Here are some bullet points about Wide Awakes 2025. They are: 1. Based primarily on the Wide Awake movement of 1860, described as, quote, the forgotten force that elected Lincoln and spurred the Civil War, end quote, in the 2024 book Wide Awake by the author John Grinspan. I discovered the book when I Googled the word woke. I ordered it on February 10th, 2025. 2. Based also on the interfaith service entitled Honoring the Richness of Diversity that I helped facilitate in 2005 in Tampa, Florida, as a community response to an anti-gay Hillsborough County ordinance. That service included a Unitarian Universalist-style flower celebration, as I've documented on both Instagram and YouTube. Speakers at that celebration on September 17, 2005, Joe Chalura Park, Tampa, Florida, included representatives from various faith groups, including United Methodists, United Church of Christ, Metropolitan Community Churches, Buddhists, Pagan, Unitarian Universalists, a local Black Christian church, and the Jewish faith. 3. Based as well on the universal power of the flower. Flowers as symbols of beauty, dignity, diversity, compassion, empathy, principled love, and regeneration. Now, in a novel sense, starting with Wide Awake's 2025, flowers will be recognized as symbols or metaphors of facts, undeniable, accurate information. That's because flowers are where DNA passes on the information for life in the plant kingdom. Twisting and perverting words like woke and critical race theory helped advance MAGA and Project 2025. This process can be reversed. America can heal. 4. Based on the universal symbol of the single open eye that has been used from ancient times to stand for awareness, enlightenment, and wisdom. I am well aware, dear Rabbi, that to many people, the idea that soon millions and millions of people will take to the streets in brightly colored, homemade, Wide Awake's 2025 capes, in numbers far in excess of the 3.5% of the population that is recognized as a threshold for successful, sustained resistance movements, sounds superficial, silly, and downright laughable. Actually, that assessment is very similar to what the slave power Southern Democrats called the 1860 Wide Awake clubs. A dumb show. It was anything but. Their unlikely coalition, that John Greenspan calls a systematic organization of hatreds, began in the Northeast with very young populists and racists who realized it was in their best interest to support free speech and abolition, to preserve the Union. It grew rapidly around the May 1860 Chicago Republican Political Convention, when amazing numbers of Midwestern immigrants were invited to form Wide Awake clubs. In some areas, African Americans joined clubs, and in others, there were all-black Wide Awake clubs and all-women's clubs. They put their differences aside long enough to march all together in solidarity. They managed to tip the power dynamic away from the white supremacist Christian nationalists' slave power. Abraham Lincoln was elected. After the crucible of the Civil War, our Constitution was amended by the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments that helped end the death grip enslavement had on America since before its founding, and the temporary enshrinement of slavery in our Constitution by the 3/5 Clause. Now, thanks to MAGA and Project 2025, America is once again in the death grip of white supremacist, Christian nationalist-inspired violence and thuggery. With your help, what I would love to see start here on the northeastern shore of Maryland and then unfold across the country is an ongoing, rolling, relay-style series of interfaith celebrations that will refute and silence the hate and reclaim the narrative. Part of our goal would be to set an example that would then be adapted by every element or pillar of society that is impacted by attacks on diversity, because it generally suits their needs too. Instead of a systematic organization of hatreds, it would be a systematic organization of likes, passions, and loves. Wide Awake's 2025 is that adaptable. Wide Awakes for the environment, Wide Awakes for civil rights, Wide Awakes for women's rights, Wide Awakes for LGBTQIA+ rights, Wide Awakes for human rights, Wide Awakes for persons with disabilities, etc. The possibilities are endless. In the last several months, I have had personal, one-on-one conversations along these lines with local leaders from various groups: the Episcopal Church, the United Methodist Church, the Presbyterian Church, and other local faith leaders, as well as local Democrats, business and LGBTQIA+ leaders, other liberals, and some folks not so liberal. Most seem to like what I described as a call to the conscience of all Americans that would strive to avoid arrogance and contempt for anyone, along the lines of Abraham Lincoln's "better angels of our nature" and "with malice toward none." On February 26, I published the first video on Instagram entitled "Wide Awake Celebrations, Wide Awake Alliances." In it, most of the features currently part of Wide Awake's 2025 were laid out from the onset. I include the narration script of the 1-minute, 30-second video here, so you can follow my logic. Exactly how Wide Awake's 2025 evolves over time will be amazing to observe. Narration script. Americans are becoming wide awake about the dangers that MAGA, white Christian nationalism, and Project 2025 present to our freedoms. This 2005 interfaith service, honoring the richness of diversity, was a grassroots community response to the ban on gay pride by County Commissioner Rhonda Storms of Bell Shoals Baptist Church. This Wide Awake celebration is a model for how we can protest peacefully, educate ourselves, and comfort one another all at the same time. Young Wide Awakes in 1860 used symbols such as a single open eye, militaristic marching, black capes, and flaming torches. They helped found the Republican Party, elect Abraham Lincoln, and end slavery. Today, absolutely nonviolent Wide Awakes of all ages can choose strong, benevolent symbols of our diversity. Eye selfies and art, candles, phone flashlights. Clothe ourselves in flower celebrations, flower handouts, and moving water. We must organize, create Wide Awake alliances, march, create signs, slogans, podcasts, reels, letter writing. Invite speakers, secular, academic, historical, futurist, humorist, religious, and political. Use every peaceful means we can think of to promote dignity, diversity, free speech, equality, and unity in these United States of America. The end. As you see in that last paragraph, the initial idea was to develop all-encompassing, nationwide, Wide Awakes 2025 alliances, comprised of all groups targeted by MAGA and Project 2025. Perhaps it makes more sense to start local and with the faith community and branch out from there. Dear Rabbi, can you begin to sense, to feel the power that will be unleashed in the world for good by such a movement? The choice will be clear and undeniable. I believe people will choose life, freedom, justice, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all. Time is of the essence. Please act. Sincerely, Joe Weinstein.